You know, when you send in this research on stiff person syndrome, it really caught my eye. Like a lot of people, I mostly only knew about SPS because of Celine Dion's diagnosis, but the material you shared
Yeah.
goes so much deeper than just headlines. We're talking about a truly rare condition,
Right.
something like 1 or 2 cases per million people, and mostly women.
Yeah.
So we've got some medical journal articles, personal stories of works, ready to really dive into SPS.
Absolutely. And while it's rare, the impact is anything but subtle. Imagine dealing with constant, incredibly painful muscle spasms and rigidity. It's a neurological and autoimmune disorder, meaning your own immune system is attacking your body.
That's one of the things that really struck me in these medical reports. It's like your body turns against itself. How does that even happen?
The exact cause is still mystery,
Hmm.
which makes diagnosis and treatment even more challenging. But we do know the immune system is producing antibodies that disrupt a crucial neurotransmitter called GABA.
GABA. Now that sounds familiar. Doesn't it have something to do with relaxation?
Yes, GABA is essential for regulating muscle activity. Think of it as your body's natural chill pill. It keeps muscles from overcontracting. But in SPS, these antibodies are like a wrench thrown into the system, preventing GABA from doing its job.
So no wonder people with SPS experience such intense muscle spasms. It's like their off switch for muscle contraction is broken.
That's a great way to put it. One of the articles actually uses a lock and key analogy. The connections between our nerves and muscles are like a lock, and these antibodies are a key that jams that lock, leading to constant muscle tension and those agonizing spasms.
Wow, that's a powerful image. And speaking of powerful, there's Michael's story. He was diagnosed as a teenager, and his symptoms were so severe he couldn't walk or sleep for periods of time.
Michael's experience highlights how debilitating SPS can be. His father, a doctor himself, described his back muscles being so tense they look like visible ropes under his skin. Imagine the pain and discomfort of living with that level of constant muscle tension.
It's hard to even fathom. I get muscle cramps sometimes after a workout, and that's bad enough. This constant tension must be excruciating.
It is, and it goes beyond just the physical pain. Disrupting GABA doesn't just affect your muscles, it can impact your entire nervous system. This is why many people with SPS also experience heightened anxiety.
So the anxiety isn't just a natural reaction to having a serious condition, it's actually tied to this GABA disruption at a chemical level.
Exactly. It highlights the complex interplay between the physical and psychological aspects of SPS, which we'll explore further as we go deeper into these sources.
We left off with Michael's story and how SPS affected his everyday life. It's a good reminder that these symptoms can affect way more than just your limbs. Celine Dion, for example, has talked about how SPS has affected her singing voice.
That's right. Think about it. Singing, even digestion, relies on carefully coordinated muscle movements. When those muscles are constantly tense or prone to spasms, it can have a ripple effect throughout the body. Some people with SPS even experience digestive problems because of muscle spasms in their gut.
It's amazing how interconnected our bodies are. You wouldn't necessarily think that a neurological condition could impact your stomach, but it makes sense when you think about how many muscles are involved in digestion.
Absolutely. And here's where it gets even more complicated. The symptoms of SPS can be triggered by seemingly unrelated things, like stress or sudden noises. There's a case described in one of these medical journals about a woman going through a divorce. And every time she had to appear in court, the stress would trigger these intense muscle spasms.
So it's like her body's natural fight or flight response was going haywire because of the stress, and that in turn would trigger the SPS symptoms.
Exactly. It's another example of how intertwined the physical and psychological aspects of SPS are. And this unpredictable nature of the symptoms makes diagnosis even more difficult. I can see how someone could go years bouncing from doctor to doctor, getting misdiagnosed with everything from anxiety disorders to chronic fatigue.
That brings us back to Michael's diagnostic odyssey, as one of the researchers called it. He was told he had all sorts of things before finally getting the correct SPS diagnosis. It must be incredibly frustrating for patients to be dismissed or misdiagnosed when they're dealing with such a debilitating condition.
It is. Unfortunately, there's a lack of awareness about SPS, even among some medical professionals. The symptoms can mimic so many other conditions that it can be difficult to pinpoint. That's why raising awareness is so crucial. The more people know about SPS, the better equipped they'll be to advocate for themselves and seek the proper testing.
Speaking of testing, are there any specific ways to diagnose SPS? Is it a blood test, a scan, or something else?
It's not quite that simple, unfortunately. There's no single test that definitively diagnoses SPS. It's more like piecing together a puzzle. Doctors look at a combination of factors, starting with a thorough medical history, looking for patterns in the symptoms.
So it's about connecting the dots.
Exactly. They'll also perform a physical exam checking for specific signs like muscle rigidity and hyperlordosis.
Oh, hyperlordosis. Now that one's new to me.
It's an excessive inward curve of the lower back, almost like an exaggerated posture. It's a common symptom of SPS because of the constant muscle tension in the back.
So it's not just about stiff muscles, it's about how that stiffness affects posture and movement overall.
Precisely. And then there's a blood test that can detect the presence of a specific antibody called GAD65. This antibody is found in many people with SPS, but it's not a foolproof indicator.
So some people might have the antibodies but never develop the condition, while others might have SPS without having those specific antibodies.
That's right. It's another piece of the puzzle, but not the whole picture.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it takes a doctor who's familiar with SPS to interpret all these clues and arrive at an accurate diagnosis.
Okay, so let's say someone does get that diagnosis. What happens next? Are there any effective treatments available?
There's no cure for SPS yet, but there are treatments that can help manage the symptoms and improve quality of life. The approach is usually two-pronged, focusing on both symptom management and immunotherapy.
So two different approaches working together. Tell me more about how those work.
Symptom management is about addressing the immediate discomfort and disability caused by the muscle spasms. This might involve physical therapy to maintain flexibility and strength, medications like muscle relaxants to ease the spasms, and benzodiazepines, which can help increase GABA levels in the brain.
So kind of like replacing the GABA that's being blocked by those antibodies.
Exactly. It's about restoring some balance to the system. Then there's immunotherapy, which aims to modify the immune system's response and slow down the progression of the disease. This might involve immunosuppressant drugs to dial down the immune system's attack on the body. Or in some cases, a procedure called plasmapheresis.
Plasmapheresis, that sounds intense.
It is a more involved procedure. Imagine it like this: your blood is run through a machine that essentially filters out those harmful antibodies. It's like hitting the reset button on the immune system, giving it a chance to calm down and hopefully stop attacking the body.
That's a great analogy. It makes a complex procedure much easier to understand.
It's not a permanent solution, though. Remember, Michael, he underwent plasmapheresis and went into remission for a while. But unfortunately, some of his symptoms did eventually return.
It highlights the fact that there's still so much we don't know about SPS and how to treat it effectively. Which brings us back to the need for more research, right?
Absolutely. The more we understand about what causes SPS and how it progresses, the better equipped we'll be to develop more targeted therapies, and hopefully one day a cure.
And that research requires funding, which, as we discussed earlier, can be a challenge for rare diseases like SPS. But it seems like Celine Dion's decision to go public with her diagnosis has helped shine a light on the condition, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. Raising awareness is a crucial first step. But to translate that awareness into real progress, we need sustained effort and funding for research.
Before we wrap up this section, I want to go back to something that really struck me in Michael's story and in some of the medical reports. It's this idea of invisible pain. We've talked about the excruciating muscle spasms, but there's also this other layer of suffering that's not always visible, right? It's easy to focus on those dramatic physical symptoms, but reading these accounts, you really get a sense of the anxiety, the fatigue, the fear of not knowing when the next spasm will hit. Those are all invisible burdens that people with SPS carry every day.
That's such an important point. It's easy to overlook the mental and emotional toll of living with a chronic and unpredictable condition like SPS.
Yeah.
The stress alone can be immense. And unfortunately, stress can actually worsen the physical symptoms. It's a vicious cycle.
And then you have the social isolation that often comes with having a rare disease that most people just don't understand. Imagine trying to explain to your friends why you suddenly have trouble walking or talking, or why a loud noise or an unexpected touch can trigger a painful spasm.
Yeah, it's a heavy burden to carry. And this is where having a strong support system is so crucial.
Yeah.
Family and friends who take the time to understand SPS and how it affects their loved one can make a world of difference.
So where do we go from here? What's the takeaway for someone listening to this deep dive and wanting to help?
I think awareness is the most important first step. The more people know about SPS, the more likely they are to recognize the symptoms in themselves or others and seek help. That could lead to earlier diagnoses and hopefully better outcomes for patients.
Because right now it sounds like people are suffering for years before they even get a name for what they're going through.
Exactly. And beyond awareness, we need to push for more research funding. SPS is complex, and we've still got a lot to learn about its causes and how to treat it effectively. We need more research to develop better therapies and ultimately find a cure.
It sounds like Celine Dion going public with her diagnosis was a big step in raising awareness. Do you think that could lead to faster diagnoses and better treatment options for people with SBS?
I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. We've seen it happen with other rare diseases. When someone high profile brings attention to a condition, it can really galvanize research efforts and lead to breakthroughs that benefit everyone.
So it sounds like we all have a part to play. If this deep dive has sparked your interest, I encourage you to learn more about SPS. You can look up the Stiff Person Syndrome Research Foundation, see what resources they offer, and consider making a donation if you can.
Every little bit helps. And even if you're not able to donate financially, just spreading the word is incredibly valuable. Share what you've learned with your friends, family, colleagues. You never know who might be affected by this condition or who might be inspired to get involved.
It's a powerful reminder that knowledge is power, and when we share that knowledge, we can make a real difference. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. Until next time.